The rain had been falling for hours, a soft, steady curtain that blurred the street lights into golden halos. Anaya pressed her umbrella tighter against the wind as she crossed the nearly empty road, her boots splashing through shallow puddles. She hated rainy evenings, mostly because they reminded her of being alone. But tonight she had no choice. She had a prescription to pick up for her mother. The small pharmacy on the corner was still lit, a warm rectangle in the gray haze. She pushed the glass door open, the bell above it chiming softly. The smell hit her first. Antiseptic and something faintly floral, maybe the lavender cleaner they used. And then she saw her. Behind the counter, checking a patient's file, stood a woman in a navy blue cardigan and a cream silk blouse, her hair pinned up in a loose twist. Her beauty wasn't loud. There was something composed about her, the kind of elegance that made you slow down without realizing it. But it wasn't just beauty. It was presence. The woman looked up, and their eyes met. For a moment, Anaya forgot why she was there. The woman's gaze was calm but sharp, like she could see more than you wanted to show. Her lips curved into a polite smile. "Evening. How can I help you?" Anaya blinked. "Oh, I'm here for a prescription for Mira Sharma." "Of course." The woman turned, walking toward the back shelves. The sound of her heels on the tiled floor was soft but deliberate. Anaya noticed the way she moved, graceful, practiced, like someone used to being watched but not flaunting it. The prescription was ready in a small paper bag. When the woman returned, she glanced at the name. "Your mother?" Anaya nodded. "Yes." The woman smiled again, a little warmer this time. "Tell her to rest and keep warm." And then, unexpectedly, she added, "You look like you could use that advice too." It was such a simple thing, but it lingered with Anaya as she walked out into the rain again. The wind was colder now, but her chest felt oddly warm. She didn't know the woman's name, but she already knew she wanted to. 3 days passed before Anaya saw her again. It was still raining. Different kind of rain this time, lighter, more like the sky couldn't decide whether it really wanted to commit. Anaya was at the little cafe 2 blocks from her flat, sitting by the window with her laptop open but mostly staring out at the wet street. She wasn't expecting to see her, and yet, there she was, the woman from the pharmacy, stepping in from the drizzle, shaking droplets from a black umbrella. She wasn't in the navy cardigan tonight. This time, it was a dark green trench coat cinched neatly at the waist, hair let down into loose waves that brushed her shoulders. The effect was devastating in a quiet way. She ordered something at the counter, her voice low, smooth, and moved to a table in the corner. She didn't notice Anaya at first, and Anaya debated whether she should go over. Her heart was already doing that restless, shallow beat thing it did when she was about to embarrass herself. Still, she closed her laptop, picked up her mug, and walked toward the corner. "Hi," she said, hoping it didn't sound too eager. The woman looked up, surprised, then smiling faintly in recognition. "Ah, the prescription girl." Anaya flushed. "That's one way to remember me?" "I'm Maya," she offered, like a small secret she was giving away. "Anaya." She hesitated. "Do you mind if I—" Maya gestured to the empty chair. "Please." They talked in slow starts about the weather, the cafe's terrible cappuccino foam, the fact that the rain had been endless lately. Maya's gaze was steady when she listened, but she had a way of glancing down mid-sentence that made her seem softer, less untouchable. When Anaya mentioned she was between jobs, Maya tilted her head slightly. That can be freeing, you know. Scary, but freeing. There was something in her tone, like she knew about scary freedom firsthand, but Anaya didn't press. Instead, she asked what Maya did. "I'm a pharmacist," she said simply, but her eyes flickered, as though there was more she wasn't saying. The rain thickened outside, turning the streetlights into watery stars. They didn't exchange numbers, and when they left, they went in opposite directions. But as Anaya walked home, she caught herself smiling at nothing. Her hand brushed her own sleeve, almost imagining it was the warmth of Maya's arm. It was one of those days where the clouds looked like they'd been painted in broad, hurried strokes, gray and restless. Anaya had just missed her bus. She stood under the metal awning of the stop, hugging her tote bag close, when she saw her. Maya. She was standing at the far end, not in a coat this time, but in a deep maroon sweater and black trousers, hair pinned loosely at the back, with strands falling around her face like they had better things to do than obey gravity. Anaya hesitated for a heartbeat too long before walking over. "You again," Maya said, a small smirk tugging at her lips. Anaya tried to match it. "I think the city's trying to set us up." "Or stalk you," Maya countered lightly. A gust of wind cut between them, carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked pavement and whatever perfume Maya wore, warm, clean, faintly floral. It was a smell Anaya could get used to. They talked about inconsequential things at first, bus delays, how the city's streetlights flickered like tired eyes. But then, almost without thinking, Anaya asked, "Do you like your job?" Maya's smile faltered, not dramatically, but enough for Anaya to notice. "It pays the bills," she said, looking at the ground. Then, after a pause, "I used to love it. The people, helping them, but lately," she trailed off. "You don't have to answer," Anaya said softly. Maya looked at her then, really looked, as if she was trying to decide whether to hand her something fragile. "You ever feel like you're living a life that looks fine from the outside, but inside it's not?" Anaya's breath caught. "All the time." The bus's headlights appeared down the road, haloed in mist. They both stepped forward. Their hands brushed briefly as they reached for the rail. Neither moved away immediately. When they boarded, Maya didn't sit. She stood near the exit, holding the pole, eyes drifting over the blur of the rain-smeared city. And when her stop came, she didn't say goodbye. Just looked at Anaya with a soft, unreadable expression before stepping into the night. Anaya sat there long after, the warmth of that almost touch still sparking through her fingers. The city had settled into the kind of winter afternoon where the air outside felt like it might flake into snow, but hadn't yet committed. Anaya was in the library, tucked in the quietest corner, the kind where the light slanted in from tall windows and dust motes floated lazily like they had nowhere urgent to be. She was halfway through grading student essays when a shadow fell over her table. "Maya?" The name slipped out before she could stop it.
Maya stood there, holding a stack of books, hard covers, all thick, and wearing a cream scarf that looked far too soft for public transport life. "Thought I'd find you here," Maya said, sliding into the seat opposite without asking. Anaya smiled, trying not to let her surprise show. "You don't exactly strike me as the library type." Maya tilted her head. "And why's that?" "Because you seem busier, the kind of person who only comes in when they need something quick." "Maybe I needed something quick." Maya's tone was casual, but her eyes didn't match. They lingered. They talked in low voices, about books at first. Maya admitted she hadn't finished a novel in years. Life kept interrupting. Anaya teased her, calling it a tragedy. They laughed softly, and it was the kind of laughter that left a warm echo in the air between them. Then, halfway through a sentence, Maya reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair from Anaya's cheek. The touch was feather-light, almost accidental. Almost. Anaya froze. She could hear her own heartbeat. "You had ink," Maya murmured. "Right there." Her fingers lingered just a fraction longer than they needed to before pulling back. For a moment, the world outside their corner didn't exist. Just the faint hum of the library heater, the cool light on Maya's hair, the weight of something unspoken pressing between them. And then Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and the shift was immediate. Her shoulders stiffened, her expression guarded. "I have to go," she said, gathering her books too quickly. Before Anaya could ask, Maya was gone, scarf trailing behind her like the scene itself wasn't ready to let go. Anaya sat there, fingers still tingling where Maya's had brushed her skin, wondering who, or what, had pulled her away so suddenly. It was 3 days after the library. The city was in that in-between hour where office lights flickered on one by one, but the streets still clung to the fading blue of dusk. Anaya was walking home from work, scarf pulled high against the wind, when she spotted Maya across the street. Maya wasn't alone. She stood near the entrance of a coffee shop speaking to a man in a dark coat. From where Anaya stood, the man's face was hidden, but Maya's wasn't. Her head tilted up toward him, a faint smile there, though her hands were shoved deep into her pockets. Anaya slowed her pace, pretending to check her phone, telling herself not to jump to conclusions. The man reached out, touched Maya's arm lightly, a gesture that was too familiar to ignore. Maya glanced away as if scanning the street, and her eyes landed on Anaya. For the briefest moment, something unreadable flashed across Maya's face. Then she gave a quick nod to the man, said something Anaya couldn't hear, and walked away in the opposite direction. By the time Anaya crossed the street, both were gone. That night, Anaya tried to read in bed, but her mind kept replaying the scene. She told herself she had no right to feel this way. Maya wasn't hers. This wasn't whatever this was. Still, the feeling pressed in. The quiet sting of being outside someone's real life, seeing only the parts they let you see. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "Maya, sorry I disappeared the other day. Busy week? Coffee soon?" Anaya stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She typed "sure," then deleted it. Typed "okay." Deleted that too. Finally, she just sent, "Sounds good." She didn't add a smiley. The cafe smelled faintly of cinnamon and warm milk. Late afternoon light slanted through the tall windows, catching in dust motes that drifted lazily in the air. Maya was already there, seated by the far corner table, her coat draped over the back of the chair, sleeves of her black turtleneck pushed up to her elbows. Anaya walked in, her boots damp from the melting snow outside. She tried to force a smile, but it felt thin. "Hey," Maya said, rising slightly from her chair in that elegant, deliberate way she did everything. Her voice was warm, but her eyes... Anaya couldn't decide if they were tired or careful. They sat. Steam curled from their mugs, the hiss of the espresso machine filling the pauses between words. "How's work?" Maya asked, stirring her coffee with a slow, almost meditative motion. "Busy," Anaya said. The word felt small, and she hated how clipped it sounded. She tried again. "I saw you the other night, outside the cafe on 5th. Maya's stirring slowed. "Oh?" she said, as if the memory was distant. "Right, I was meeting someone." "Friend?" Anaya asked. She tried to sound casual, but her thumb was tracing the rim of her cup in small, restless circles. There was a pause, not long enough to be suspicious, but long enough to notice. "Yes," Maya said finally. "Just an old friend." Anaya nodded, forcing her gaze down to her coffee. She didn't press. She didn't ask why Maya had looked almost startled to see her, or why she hadn't introduced them. Instead, Maya leaned back, studying her. "You seem different today," Maya said softly. Anaya's laugh was quiet, almost humorless. "Do I?" Their eyes met for a beat too long. Then Maya reached across the table, her fingers brushing Anaya's hand, just enough to send a pulse of heat up her arm. "I'm glad you came," Maya said. "Really?" And just like that, the moment to ask more was gone, swept away by the warmth of her touch and the way her voice wrapped around those simple words. The street outside was slick from earlier rain. the neon sign of a small bookstore casting pink and blue ripples across the wet pavement. Anaya stood under the awning, hugging her coat closer as Maya approached from the opposite side. "You're late," Anaya said, trying for lightness, but it came out edged. Maya exhaled a small laugh. "Traffic. And She hesitated, glancing away. "Had to finish something first." Anaya's brow knit. "Something?" Maya stepped closer, the scent of her perfume, faint jasmine with something warmer beneath, slipping into the cool evening air. "Yes," she said simply, and for a moment it felt like the answer should be enough. But it wasn't. Anaya shifted her weight, looking past her toward the street. "I saw you again yesterday, outside the gallery." Maya's eyes flickered, a subtle shift, but Anaya caught it. "You've been seeing me a lot lately," Maya said, a small, almost defensive smile tugging at her mouth. "I notice when you're somewhere you didn't mention," Anaya said quietly. "Is that strange?" The space between them tightened, filled with words neither seemed ready to say. Cars passed, their headlights sliding briefly over Maya's face, highlighting the faint crease between her brows. "You don't have to know every detail," Maya said at last. Her voice was gentle but firm, and there it was, a wall. Anaya's chest tightened. "I'm not asking for every detail, just honesty." Maya's hand twitched as if she almost reached out but stopped herself. "I am being honest," she said, "but honesty doesn't mean full disclosure." A gust of wind swept past, rattling the bookstore's hanging sign. Anaya wanted to argue, wanted to demand more, but something in Maya's gaze, the mix of defiance and something softer, made her falter. "Okay," Anaya said finally, though her voice was thin. Maya gave a faint nod, then stepped forward, her gloved hand brushing Anaya's arm in a silent offering of closeness. It was enough to keep Anaya from walking away, but not enough to quiet the ache curling low in her chest. The rain had returned in thin silver threads, tapping against the large glass windows of the gallery. Inside, the air smelled faintly of varnished wood and old canvas. Anaya walked beside Maya through the dimly lit corridors, their steps softened by the deep carpet. It was supposed to be casual, just a quick stop to see an exhibit Maya had mentioned. But as they turned a corner, Anaya froze. 3 figures stood at the far end of the room. 2 older patrons chatting idly, and a tall man with sharp eyes and an expensive coat. He noticed Maya instantly. "Maya," he said, a smile that didn't reach his eyes stretching across his face. "Didn't expect to see you here tonight." Anaya felt the subtle stiffening of Maya's posture beside her. "Victor?" Maya said evenly. "I was just showing a friend around." "Friend." The word slid between them like cold water. Victor's gaze shifted to Anaya, scanning her quickly, almost assessing. "A friend?" he repeated. "Interesting. I thought you were—" He stopped. The pause waited. "Busy these days." Maya's lips curved into a polite but distant smile. "I make time for the things I care about." She didn't look at Anaya when she said it, but Anaya felt the words ripple through her all the same. Victor's attention lingered. There was something in his tone when he finally spoke again. Light, but edged with implication. "Well, you've always been full of surprises." When he walked away, the space he left felt heavy with unspoken questions. Anaya turned to Maya. "Who was that?" "No one you need to worry about," Maya said quickly, already moving toward the next room. But Anaya didn't follow right away. She watched Maya's back, her elegant frame silhouetted against the muted gallery lights, and felt the growing certainty that Maya was protecting something, or someone. The rest of the evening passed in polite conversation about paintings neither of them truly saw. Every brushstroke and shadow on the canvas seemed to echo the same question in Anaya's mind. How much of Maya's life was she being kept out of? And for the first time, Anaya wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer.